Welcome back to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. With me, I now have Yemi Adamolekun, Executive Director in Office Enough, and Dr. Nnaemeka Obiaraeri, an investment banking executive. Good to see you. Thank you for joining me. Well, today we've dealt with just two major topics. May 3 was World Press Freedom Day, and we had the General Secretary of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, Dr. Obiaraeri, talking about press freedom and the theme for this year, which is about environmental crisis and what journalism can do to address that. And then, of course, we talked about the report of the result of the Universal Matriculation Examination, popularly known as UTME, by the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, Jamb, where we were told that performance was, poor performance was at the rate of 76%. We have Professor Yemi saying that's a reflection of the macro issues we're dealing with. But we had a spokesperson of Jamb also saying, well, Jamb doesn't conduct fail and pass exams. It's just a selection process. And he tried to explain what he meant by that, in addition to a number of issues. Yemi Adamolekun, did you take Jamb in your time? Yes, you must have. You must have. Yeah. Okay.
Do you want me to comment?
Yes, your views on both subjects, both press freedom and UTME.
Thank you. I'll start with the press freedom. And I think, the World Freedom Day, I think I'll leave that. And I would like to really focus on the issue of Daniel Ojukwu and the issues you raised around journalists and truly freedom. I like what Dr. Yobosa said, that one would have thought, or the sector would have thought, with a president that has a stakeholder in the media space, owning TV station, a radio station, and a newspaper, that generally he would understand what press freedom means and the importance of it, and in a sense behave accordingly, shall I say. The minister on Saturday said that, and I'll quote this thing, that nobody has, he said on Friday rather, the press briefing to mark World Press Freedom Day. I have not seen somebody in the life of this administration, for example, who has put in jail or who has gone into exile as a result of press freedom. And I dare say that the minister either was uninformed or he was blatantly telling a lie. 11 people have been harassed, abducted, arrested under this administration. Daniel's May 1st abduction being the most recent. Segun Olatuju that you discussed happened in May. There was a Kasara Chianyogolu of the Whistle newspaper who was arrested and detained because she covered the story of EFCC going after Bureau d'Assurance operators. There's Ajadu Gabriel of Daybreak newspaper who was arrested in November. There was allegations of defamation of character. Godwin Itza of the Sun newspaper. Precious Eze, an online publisher. Saliu Ayatollah and Adiza Jaji Aziz, the managing editor of Informant 247. Saint Impia Mamu, who was accused of cyber stalking. And then Abdurazak Babatunde and Lukman Bolakale, publishers of Statcom Media. And I was intentional about mentioning their names so it's not speculative. These are individuals that have been arrested over the 1 year of this administration. And I think it is instructive what Dr. Yobosa said, and maybe I'll just summarize with that the president might claim not to know, because obviously there's a lot happening in the country. But when a minister of the Federal Republic, who's Minister of Information, is also ignorant, that doesn't help. And for both of them, I think that is something that needs to be said very urgently around intervening. One, to ensure that, to your point, even if Daniel committed a crime, and Daniel being the most recent, the law says you charge someone, you don't keep them longer than 48 hours. So when officers of the law, i.e. the police, decide that they can break the law at will, and nothing happens, then this is what we get. And one of the stories, as I'm reading in this report, and this is the one about the EFCC, the officers who arrested and detained her for 8 hours confiscated her gadgets, physically assaulted her, and said they would kill her and nothing would happen. Now, this is the standard phrase when at the height of NSAS, that's what SARS officials would say, or police in general. And if in 2024 we're still having these challenges, there's a lot to be done. And I think there needs to be a very direct and a very specific action by the minister, by the president, in calling the Nigerian police to order. Like, this is just unacceptable behavior. And Daniel was apparently picked up by writing a story on a former deputy governor in Lagos State, Mrs. Sadiq, on the contract she had given out a few days before the end of the administration while she was SA to schools for construction work, I think was the article. And that's why he's been apparently picked up. And lastly, just that distinction that Dr. Yobosa raised, in fact that I might be aggrieved because of a story, but let it go through the proper complaint, not because as a government official, I don't like you, I can get police to come and pick you up. And again, we've seen that with Erisco Foods and the young lady and the review that she did. On the second story on Jamb and UTME, I liked what Dr. Fabian just trying to take us through the process, that it's not a pass or fail exam, and explaining the different kind of modalities of schools, choices, capacity, and things of that nature. So let me do Jamb first. Exams are one, I guess, in a stage, and then universities have also started doing their own processes of sifting students. We can increase our carrying capacity as a country if we invested, rather than expending time and energy turning university into a party pack, and for every state gets a university, if we invested in existing universities to increase their carrying capacity, because one, you are the structure that you have to expand is much different than setting up a new university from scratch. And I say it, University of Ife, for example, can take maybe at least 2 more University of Ifes on the land that it has. So why are we not investing in doing that and upgrading the quality of our universities rather than just opening universities that we don't have no capacity to man? And then we say we have 2 million students and there's nowhere to send them to. But I also agree with Professor Yemi's point that by the time you get to Jamb, you're dealing with fundamental and structural problems. As someone who sits for Jamb is going into university, what's the quality of secondary education they had? What's the quality of primary school education they had? And I disagree with him in terms of the commercialization of education. Because if people want to send their kids to private schools and they can afford it, we should not conflate that issue with the lack or the, you should not conflate that issue in absolving government for providing education for those who can't afford private care. And to your point, I'm sure you quote the relevant part of the Constitution that says it's the government's job to provide primary and secondary education at the very minimum. And the Constitution then says if government can afford it, make tertiary education free. But primary and secondary should not be a luxury, should not be a function of who can afford, which is what, maybe that's his larger point, what happens with private education and when parents choose to go there. And I'll land with my song and dance when it comes to tertiary education in this country. Professor Yemi was a former president of ASU. Until universities decide that they want autonomy in the fullest sense of it, to then control not only their admissions, to control their students, to control their expansion, to control how they run their universities, we are not yet serious about producing 21st century type graduates for the future. And until as a country we prioritize education and put appropriate budgeting for primary and secondary education, then we're also not serious about development.
Okay. Professor Obiaraeri.
In fact,
I just promoted you. I said Professor.
Dr. Abati, she just landed at the point, where I wanted to come from. Jamb has outlived its usefulness. I do not even see the need why we are still carrying Jamb in Nigeria in 2024. Jamb is one of the relics of the military government before now. Go to Ghana, go to Kenya, go to South Africa, even go to Benin Republic. If you go to most universities in Benin Republic and Ghana, you will see Nigerians. Jamb has outlived its usefulness. What is the essence of Jamb after conducting the exams? The universities will now conduct their post-UME exams. You saw University of Ibadan, one of the alumni of University of Ibadan, the medical doctor in the US that donated $1 million to the school. Those were the times when there was nothing like Jamb. Universities go out of their way to recruit some of the best and the brightest, then who will now form the nucleus of alumni groups that will fund the school, go to Harvard, go to Yale. The Jamb guy was making reference to, trying to compare Nigeria with the rest of the world without realizing the fact that Jamb itself is not useful. And I've been at the forefront of it, that Jamb should be scrapped. Let the universities...
But don't forget that the system you are advocating, we used to have it.
Yes.
When the universities recruited directly.
Exactly.
That, a structure like Jamb had to be introduced to ensure equity, balance, and the
that equity and balance
2.
is why we are where we are today. Every child born anywhere in the whole world has the same cerebral capacity to learn. Even a dog, if you get a dog and domesticate a dog excellently, you begin to wonder how excellent that dog is. So this issue of trying to create quota arrangement to accommodate, that is why we are where we are today. Basically what we should be doing, if for example my state is disadvantaged in terms of producing quality primary and secondary students or maybe teachers, what do I do as a governor? I will invest heavily in basic education. I will pay so well that the best will migrate from Lagos, from other places to my state. In the first 10 years, 8 years of my government, you will see my state catching up. Like I said, this issue of quota system is what is killing Nigeria, and we have to stop it. We need to invest in education. Like now, before in the early 60s, you could see the way education was funded in Nigeria. You could see the structure. I am still shocked.
When you had Dr. Benjamin, he didn't say merit is not one of the considerations. In fact, he placed merit first before he talked about catchment area, educationally disadvantaged. So I think the people who designed Jamb,
we've been having educational disadvantage stories for the past 60 years. Dr. Abati, I don't wish my own child to be called educationally disadvantaged. And we have to look at this. Then on the issue of press freedom, Dr. Abati, there can be no democracy without press freedom. Like she rightly pointed out, of course, freedom of speech does not mean that you should also, will not give you the lascivious wassail to impugn somebody or to assassinate somebody's character or to carry out misinformation. And there are provisions of the law laid out on how people who commit such offenses can be prosecuted. The courts are there. The policeman or the security are not the courts. And detaining people beyond 48 hours is one of the problems we have in this country. We have to stop it. And if we want this democracy to grow, if we want this democracy to work, then we must subject each and every one of us to the rule of law. And rule of law simply entails obeying the letters and the context of the law, of the strength of the law. Don't try to use your power to muzzle people. If we do it, we'll end up making this place look like a banana republic. I think that is it.
Well, Dr. Obiaraeri, I get your point that there should be a sunset clause with regard to quota system. You are calling some people educationally disadvantaged. Some of the people you call educationally disadvantaged, they've been diplomats, they've been vice chancellors, they have been ministers in this country. Sometimes some Nigerians say maybe it's an advantage to even be educationally disadvantaged so that you can rise to the very top. Anyway.
But before we go to the next story, and I just wanted to follow up on the point Dr. Obiaraeri made around we should obey the law, the letter of the law, the spirit of the law. But what's the incentive to obey the law when people who break the law, there are no consequences? And I think that for us is what we need to be clear about as a country, that we are in a country where it is, in a sense, legal to do illegal things. Because there are no consequences. So if the IG of police can sit in his office in Abuja and say on orders from above, detain that young man and keep him in detention without prosecution, without any charge. If Daniel's parents hadn't, for mother I think, hadn't started looking for him and literally going from police station to police station until they found him in Kwanti, we might have a different story of what would have happened to the young man.
Like Afamifuna's Uzuemena's story, who has been in detention for about 5 years. And his family is still looking for him.
That's it.
This is a country where you just disappear into the Bermuda Triangle of arrest. And your offense may be an offense that does not exist under the law. Exactly. Wandering.
Precisely.
I don't know where somebody will be accused of wandering.
And then it also just speaks, and I think to your point, it also speaks to the fact that we're not interested in the law. Because if I was interested in the fact that you committed an offense, then I should be bold enough to charge you for that offense and get you to court. And I can, in a sense, like the way we like to do, parade you in front of everybody and say, this is the offense, which is a problem, rightly so. And then say, this is the offense that you committed. But because I am picking you up because you wrote a story that somebody does not like, then in a sense, I can silence you for 2 weeks and you can just be there being punished for doing your job.
If nobody speaks up, you can be there for 5 years.
That's it.
That's Nigeria for you. Anyway,
But that's not the Nigeria we want.
Let's take this next topic that I guess concerns all of us. Queues have returned to many filling stations in some parts of Nigeria. A scarcity of petrol is currently being experienced in major cities with a few outlets dispensing PMS. Thousands of commuters in the Federal Capital Territory, Lagos, Nasarawa, Niger State, Gombe, Sokoto, and Anambra State have been stranded at various bus stops due to the scarcity of petroleum products by transporters, which has led to a hike in transport fares in the affected states. It was gathered that the scarcity was due to a shortage in the supply of PMS to the nation's capital and other states, as this led to the closure of filling stations in the affected areas. Meanwhile, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPC Limited, has attributed the inadequate supply of the PMS product to logistical issues, noting that the challenges have been effectively addressed. Earlier on Saturday, on our flagship news and current affairs program, The Morning Show, our team of anchors took up the issue of the ongoing fuel scarcity with Dr. Billy Gillis-Ari, President of Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria. Let's listen to a bit of what he had to say. We seem to have a connection with that sound on tape. But Dr. Obiaraeri, well, I'm told that in some parts of the country, you know, even IPMAN, Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, say, oh, this is logistics problems. And it will ease off within 2 weeks. Now, I mean, some people even say in the East, if you can pay 700 naira per liter, you won't have a problem, you get fuel. But what do you think we're dealing with, Dr. Obiaraeri?
We're dealing with the usual periodic inefficiencies in the system. And as long as we refuse to tackle the root cause of the challenges we have in the petroleum industry across the whole value chain, we'll keep on having this repeated, you know, obstacles, logistic issues. People will give different reasons. Some will tell you, oh, the Escravos channel has been blocked, 150 million liters tied on the way. Some people, there are different type of stories flying around. But I still look at this from the same inefficiency. How many times have you heard about petrol scarcity in Saudi Arabia? How many times have you heard about petrol scarcity in Angola? Saudi Arabia has over 15,000 kilometer pipeline. How many times have you heard that a pipeline in Saudi Arabia was broken into and crude oil is stolen, and they do about 10 million barrels a day? We must tell ourselves true, Dr. Party, under our current regulatory arrangement, our current operational structure in our oil and gas sector across the whole value chain is inefficient. And that is why we have a lot of opacity and a lot of the kind of challenges we are having. And I've always advised us, you cannot reinvent the wheel. Look around you. What are the other people doing better? Look at Petrobras. I'll give you an example. Petrobras, beyond operating in the upstream, is also doing so well across the whole downstream value chain. Brazil has a proven reserve of 15.5 billion barrels, which is far less than our 37% proven reserve, which we can even ramp up to 50 billion. Petrobras is valued at about $170 billion. Last year, they did $121 billion in revenue and $37 billion in profit. And their crude oil output had been consistently at 2.3 million barrels. How did they do it? Very simple. Nigeria is the only place where oil blocks are located to individuals. Look at Aramco, look at Petrobras. What did they do? Very simple. The federal government of Brazil divested wholly and left only 28.5% shares for themselves and invited the private capable investors to come and take up those shares. Listed on the floor of the Brazilian Stock Exchange. If you want to enjoy oil and gas wealth, buy those shares, invest. Just like we have today in the Nigeria liquefied natural gas. You could see how efficiently run it is. It is the only corporation in Nigeria that is giving us dividend. In fact, the other day we even toyed with the idea of securitizing their dividends for the next 10 years to about $10 billion to collect loan against it. If we want this country to work and to stop this, very simple thing, Dr. Bati, the federal government of Nigeria must divest 60% of their shares from the NNPC to allow deep-pocketed, technically savvy private sector investors to subscribe and take up that. Then do another IPO that will allow us to generate about $20 billion. Let me tell you what will happen. From the first day, within the next 6 months, you get a JP Morgan Chase or Bank of America Merrill Lynch, partner them with a Stanbic IBTC and a Chapo Hamdeham. They'll be the book runners. Within the next 6 months, we'll have over $60 billion into this economy. Dr. Bati, our oil and gas market is the most lucrative. We can easily attract $20 billion annually. Have you bothered to ask yourself, how come the likes of Shell, the first refinery that was built in Nigeria was done by Shell? How come? And that was during the First Republic. They saw how transparent that republic was and they were willing to invest. But since that time, Shell, Chevron, Total do not have any investment in our downstream in terms of refinery. But in South Africa, that does not even have to 10% of our crude oil reserve. They have over 540,000 barrel refineries there. Why are they not investing here? That's the question we should ask. So if we take this step, Dr. Bati, and allow the NNPC to be like the Petrobras, to be like Aramco, and to become efficiently run, shielded from the manipulation of those in the National Assembly and Abuja. Dr. Bati, I tell you, these problems we are seeing will no longer. Basically, what will happen? We'll have a transparent, efficient, all-sector oil and gas system that people will. You see, we see boardroom. It's like, can you go to Zenith Bank and you go to Awolowo Road branch here, and they will tell you they don't have cash. You come the next day, they tell you, Jim over will fire everybody there. You can't go to UBA and the branch manager will tell you, oh, we don't have this, we don't have that. But because it's a private sector run organization, if we introduce the same efficiency in the running.
But do we not turn NNPC into a?
No, it's a limited by on paper. It's 100%. It's just NNPC is just like any ministry. Let us not deceive ourselves. If we want NNPC to become efficient, take a look at what's happening at Nigerian liquefied natural gas. It's all 49% by the federal government and 51% by the likes of Shell, Total. The appointment of the board and management and recruitment of staff there is like you're going working in Shell or any other of these oil big companies. So the truth is, as long as NNPC is 100% owned by the federal government of Nigeria, as long as we do not divest, restructure the whole system to be like what we have in Petrobras, in what we have Aramco, even Emirates Oil, Dr. Bati, we will keep on having this recurring problem. Let us not deceive ourselves. It will not end.
Dr. Obiaraeri, I get your concern. But we've been dealing with this subject since 1975. I have on my phone here the newspaper of New Nigerian of 31st March 1975. And the lead story there says, strategy to beat fuel crisis outlined. This was under Third National Development Plan. Third National Development Plan launched. This was the Gowon administration, yes? Yeah? They were talking about pipelines from Warri to Kaduna. 1975. This is 2024.
The same structure.
We are still on the same matter.
We have refused to change. Interesting thing. Petrobras was founded 1970. Long after the Nigerian National Oil Corporation that morphed up into the NNPC. The Brazilians are even more corrupt than Nigerians. But do you know what? They discovered the inefficiency. Do you know why Obasanjo decided to sell 60% of the refineries to the Blue Star Consortium, led by Aliko Dangote, Femi Otedola, and the rest of the investment hawks? It's because Obasanjo is a strong man. Obasanjo knew clearly. Remember, he built those refineries. Most of these three refineries were built between 1972 to 1986. Between Gowon, Obasanjo, and the Babangida, that was when these refineries were built. Obasanjo saw clearly, I built this thing in 3 years, 3.5 years. Buhari was even his petroleum minister. And Obasanjo was for 7 years, 8 years. He said, okay, I know this system. That was why even the federal housing, he had to unbundle everything. After he had done it, what happened? Unfortunately, Yadwa reversed it. If we don't go back to the system that works, we will keep on having these problems.
Yemi, you were going to tell us why we have been at the same spot since 1975.
Because we make money from it. So his point on Metrobus and Aramco means the Brazilians and Saudis make money from their oil. the system that we have chosen means our political elite make money from it.
Yeah.
So it's the same political elite there that decided that they wanted the nation to make money.
Yeah.
And they structured it accordingly. Our political elite have decided that they want to continue to make money, and that's where we have the structure we do. It's very simple, really.
It's very simple.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
let's
place
try.
that
Because all the queues that you're talking about, not one National Assembly member, not one sitting governor, not one commissioner, not one SA, not one anybody who was either elected into office or who was appointed into office is in that queue. I can guarantee you.
Not Dr. Obiaraeri or Yemi Adamolekun
Exactly.
either. You are not on the queue.
No, yeah. Why would I not
Which
be on
queue?
it?
Why would you go?
Why would I not be on
Dr.
it?
Abbas,
Spend this money.
I just,
Why
Buy
would
fuel.
Dr. Abbas, I just bought fuel from this AP near your office. This morning I queued.
Okay.
Don't mind him.
Yeah, you didn't have to queue up. Yeah, as a business.
Dr. Abbas, I have to queue.
No, maybe you have a lead. So next time,
please
should we
share
come
with
to you?
us. Share with us
Should we
your
come
link.
to you?
Anyway, let's take our final story as we go to the UK. London's newly re-elected mayor, Sadiq Khan, says it was time for the Prime Minister to call a general election. Khan's victory is third in a row, helps to cement the opposition Labour Party's commanding lead over the governing Conservatives in local polls, ahead of Britain's national election later this year. Speaking shortly after results were announced, he said Londoners are excited by the change in government. For Labour, London is the latest of several councils and mayoralties it has won in the local elections, which were held on Thursday, inflicting heavy losses on Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's Conservatives. Opinion polls predict the Labour Party will win the next national election, propelling its leader Keir Starmer to power and ending 14 years of Conservative government in Britain. Khan, 53, who became the first Muslim mayor of the British capital in 2016, has pledged more social housing and work with a future national Labour government to boost police capacity. Well, the Conservatives are in turmoil. Labour is changing the game. I think they took about 10 of the local councils, about 106 seats out of 107, with the Tories losing almost about 470 seats in total. And Labour even won in strategic bellwether places like Blacksouth, like, some of those places that may be very critical in a general election. Is this the end of the Conservatives at this moment, losing, strategic locations that could be critical in the next election in Blackburn, in Oldham, in Milton Keynes, and other parts? What do you think, Dr. Obiaraeri, or should I start with Yemi? Okay, Yemi.
Dr. Abati, I think the Conservatives are having, I can attribute their challenges to some of the policies and programs that they are pursuing. You look at the opinion polls, most UK people are not happy with their plan to move immigrants from London to Rwanda. And of course, when a government or a particular party becomes so comfortable and they begin to do things which are contrary to public opinion or which are contrary to the interests of the public, in a democracy, this is what you see. The people will vote and go against them. And they're already showing their displeasure at the polls. And it will continue until they kick them out from the prime minister position. And that should be a lesson for us too here in Nigeria. Democracy is about the will of the people, the interest of the people. Every president, every governor, every local government chairman must be willing to listen to what people are saying. When you have a policy or a program or a project you want to do, and you conduct a poll, and a majority of people are saying, oh, this is not the priority thing, listen and listen attentively, because if this is a democracy and it's actually going to work like other places, they will punish you at the polls.
Certainly, you're right. One of the worst local government elections for the Conservatives in 40 years is local government elections. We're here in Nigeria. How do we conduct our own local government elections? Do our local government elections reflect the will of the people? Okpeyemi?
Of course not. It's a clean sweep. I mean, I think there was one particular funny one, I forget one state, where they left one local government for opposition, so it will not be said that they manipulated all of it. I mean, you just had local government elections and it was a clean sweep for the PDP. I think, I mean, to your point about lesson for us in Nigeria, I don't see it as that. It shows what should be, that citizens punish elected officials at the polls when they are not aligned with their own interests. And that's what we aspire to. But it's hard to get to that point where when people make choices of who they elect into office, not because of what they are doing, but either because of what ethnic group they belong to, what religion they belong to, or what area, what local government or ward or whatever it might be that they belong to. And it's not necessarily about performance. But that's where we're going. We'll continue to talk about it and help people connect the dots between electing incompetent people and getting poor governance.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much, Okpeyemi Adamolekun. Thank you too, Dr. Nnaemeka Obiaraeri. You've been watching This Day Live, the Sunday talk show, here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati. From our entire team here in Lagos, it's bye for now, and thank you very much for watching.